Hey, BA fam. I feel the need to be doing this right now, and you're going to find out why. I am taking some deep breaths, some deep soothing breaths today, because I happen to have an incredible woman here to join us today, and her name is Jasmine Marie. Jasmine Marie is the author of a recently published book called Black Girl Breathing. Wait, where'd it go? Here it is. Black Girls Breathing, Heal from Trauma, Combat Chronic Stress, and Find Your Freedom. But Jasmine has, in her own right, such an incredible career, entrepreneurship, business, financial journey, which I hope you're cool with me getting into, because we are called Brown Ambition. We do love centering women of color at the conversations about wealth building and thriving and how it can all work together. And in this book, Jasmine offers tools, some personal experiences as well, from her training, from her life, and just tools that we can use to cope. And I don't know, I mean, I'm writing a book right now. Y'all know that, BA fam, but it's hard to predict. You can't predict when your book is going to come out, what's going to be happening in the world. And all I can say is it was divinity that that got you to publish this book at a time like this, when if there's one thing we need, it is a woo frickin' saw. Also, she's my sister from Atlanta. Grady baby in the house.
Well, she's not from Atlanta.
Oh, stop. We're from Atlanta. Stop it. If you were born at Grady, you can say you were born in Atlanta.
I'm talking about you, man.
Wait, hater. I was born at South Fulton County Hospital. Get out of here. Are we going to start? Listen.
That's fair.
If it's not my black card, people try to come from my Atlanta card every time. What number texted you before this interview? What number was it?
Wait, was it?
What was it? Let's hear. And while you're checking, I will remind you, I have lived in New York for 15 years now.
I just left New York.
Aw. But yeah, 404, baby. I've had that same number since high school, I think.
You are 404.
I won't give it up with my pride out of my cold, dead hands. Anyway, that got dark. Welcome, Jasmine Marie, to the Brown Ambition podcast. How are you?
Having me. I'm okay today. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
I have to say, I have two little ones. I know that you don't have kids, and I'm jealous. And I have two little ones. They're 5 and 2. And the morning routine, I tell my husband, it's taking years off my life. Years. It is stressful. And no matter how much you prepare, it can be very stressful to wrangle two tiny humans to get them out the door. And this morning, I was doing a lot. I was doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Mommy needs to breathe more. And I was just saying that while just picture my 2-year-old screaming and screeching in my hands like a cat you try to give a bath to, just kicking like he's like, I'm going to kick her in the nose because I don't want this diaper changed or my socks on my feet. But breathing, man. And I have to say, I knew obviously I was going to speak to you today, but it was such a good reminder for me in that moment when usually I would get so stressed. Yeah. And then the time it takes for that stress to leave my body after I do drop off, it's just, anyway, I just wanted to say that because even in that moment, it was so helpful to me. Yeah. So talk to me about your breathwork journey. How did you have a background in business, I know, but at what point were you like, I'm going to teach women how to breathe and how to heal themselves, and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, it's interesting, and you mentioned this a bit before we started today, but this is not something I ever said, I want to do this. It was something that came to me, like the purpose was put on me, and it was a fight to not want to do this, so like you said, I started in business. I was working at a global CPG company in hair care and beauty, young Black girl, was taking up space by wearing my braids. I thought I was so revolutionary.
Ooh, revolutionary.
My braids, and it was,
Yeah.
But at that company, they really didn't care. They're like, oh yeah, cool. And was just so taxed from that job. I mean, I lived and breathed work. I think that was so common amongst my peers in New York City at the time, and found myself super stressed in looking for tools and happening upon one while volunteering for my church at the time, who had just launched a community center, and the pastor's personal breath worker was teaching classes. So I took breath work.
The pastors, I listened, I heard that the pastor had a personal breath worker.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I fell in love with the tool. I fell in love with it. Just gave me the space to make more clear and conscious decisions. Nothing changed in my life. Everything actually worsened around the time. There wasn't any like huge shift, right? It was just giving me more agency to respond differently, to have a different relationship with my body and also my nervous system. And with that training, practice it for 6 years. After 6 years of personal practice, literally, got the download that I, heard. Take the training, and I took the training and followed that journey, and yeah.
What's the training?
So it was a breathwork training. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're not going to give the teachers' names because they were, unfortunately, there was a big woo-ha around in 2020 with their practices and how they went about it, and not being, what's the word?
Was it scammy?
Wasn't scammy. It was just not centered around any kind of person of color or Black person's experience. It wasn't relevant. The tools weren't relevant to our community, yet they were teaching this work. And it would only...
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I can get into that. Neither here nor there. I'm looking for the right words without saying too much.
Do you have an NDA or something, or like just uncomfy?
I just don't give it much energy because the work I use is from working with tens of thousands and corporate spaces, specifically with the Black community, juvenile detention centers. Like, I've just been in the work in a way that the industry hasn't seen the work. And that's the data and value that I go off on when it comes to my practice now. But yeah, after my training, in the group training, it came to me, Black Girls Breathing. And I was like, okay. And this was what I introduced. Oh, I'm going to do Black Girls Breathing. And we had our first virtual and in-person sessions, January 2019. And it was interesting, right? That timing right before COVID, the virtual really took off. We got lots of exposure from that work, and it grew significantly in a pace that I didn't grow my care plan. So it wasn't like I wasn't taking care of myself. It was just that, and like most of us experience, that trajectory catches us off guard a bit, and we're having to really check in. How do I care for my body at this level? And that was some learning that lagged for me. And so I had the effects of, that secondary trauma and exposure from the work, that I wasn't necessarily using the tools to care for myself, and ended up impacting my own health further. But yeah, that's how I got to breath work. I did a whole merry-go-round there.
Yeah, I there's a lot of things I want to touch on. One of them, but I want to go back. You said that when you started this breath work through your pastor, and the fact that he had a breath work teacher just stuck out to me, because, I mean, growing up in the South, it's like, if there's no problem God can't fix. And like, it's sort of almost limiting. It can feel isolating sometimes if you're just told to pray it out, and the fact that there's an acknowledgement that there's tools that we have to handle life's challenges. And yes, of course, faith, but that these tools can live in tandem with that faith is an important message, I think. Just want to highlight that. Now I want to know about you pre this, because you've had a couple different lives. You use a very scary way to describe yourself I think it's scary, because usually it's like serial killers, but then somehow we started saying serial entrepreneurs. So I always get a little when I hear it. Yeah. But you're a businesswoman. So can you talk about your career in business and what you were doing before BGB?
Yeah. So immediately after leaving my corporate job in New York City, I started a marketing consultancy. I was working with mid-sized businesses, VC firms. I helped launch the first co-living space in the Southeast. I did all the marketing research for all of that, and the marketing strategy.
A co-living space?
Yeah,
what is
so
that?
at the, co-working was like booming.
Yeah.
Living was really booming in New York City and San Fran. I have all these tech hubs where
Mm.
the spaces are smaller and there's more community, right? Shared spaces. And so this VC wanted to launch one in the Southeast, and I worked on that project. That was one of my clients there, and just built my portfolio. I would say it was
Okay.
successful to me at the time because it replaced my salary and I kept the same lifestyle. For me, that was success. I used all those learnings to launch my second business that didn't do well. It failed. It left me with debt. And that
Mm.
was millennial. And I feel like I was too early because there's people doing it now. But a millennial and Gen Z consultancy where I wanted to work with HR departments and helping to engage and retain that demographic. So working with campus recruiting, all of that. Too
Mm.
early. Really excited though, and made some amazing connections that I ended up using for BGB once I launched that. But yeah, that's my entrepreneurial journey. Lots of ups and downs and learnings. Not anything that I happened upon. I think others saw that in me before I ever saw that in myself. I am a great worker. I'm a great number two person. I love to be behind the scenes, which seems
Mm.
weird given where I am right now, but that's my comfort, right? I can put my head down and work. And so that's not where life took me. I remember I actually had a MBA mentor at NYU, and I was telling him my post-grad plans, and I was like, yes, and I'm going to work on this project, and I already have this brand idea and product idea in mind. I'm going to pitch this when I get in there. I'm going to make director in 5 years. And he was like, so you're going to be an entrepreneur? And I was like, where did you get that from? I was like, no, I'm going to rise the ranks in this corporate environment. I was like, and he was like, okay. And then I'll never forget, I circled back to him after I left to start my first company. I was like, thank you for telling me that. I don't know what possessed you to see that in me and tell me and seed that
Mm.
in me. But thank you. And so I think others saw it before I ever did.
That I wish someone had said that to me because I had the same attitude. We're not made for corporate. um, did you end up? Well, you said you left corporate. Was it because you felt like you had sort of reached that limit of what you could accomplish there, and you were just ready to do it on your own terms?
What was very interesting is I actually got a new director, Black woman. And
Mm.
I had this aim of director. And I saw her and her life, and
Mm.
not in a way that was, like, oh, that's a bad life. But the reality of being a director as a Black woman, I saw what she was experiencing, and I said, I don't want that.
And
And
that's not even that high up. Like, I mean,
oh,
it's
yeah.
mid, right?
Well, I think for this corporate structure, it was.
Yeah, you're right. There's different
She was
structures. Yeah.
over many global brands, so
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So it was high up, and I just saw her experience and I was just like, I don't want that. And there were other things
Mm.
that were going on at the time as far as the stress levels of the job that just it was of no interest to me anymore.
Yeah.
Also, personally, just young and dumb relationships, right? And left New York City to whatever. But
Nah, let's go to that whatever. Take me to whatever land.
well, whatever land is, it all works.
It's a part of the journey.
So a part of the journey.
Yes.
So a part of the journey. But I left New York City. Actually, I didn't really leave for the relationship. It was the job. We weren't together at the time. I moved back to Atlanta briefly, and then we did get back together. And I moved to Tennessee to work on the relationship, and see where it could take us. But
Gave it a shot. Tried.
give it a shot.
Yeah.
There were, of course, looking back, right? And we can all do this. And sometimes we need to be careful when we do that look back with new information. And I mentioned this in the book, not punishing ourselves for our former selves, right? Of course, looking back, you can see the ways in which I was choosing out of my wounded place, choosing a partner out of my wounded place, what a relationship looked like to me, or an ideal partner, or missing some of the red flags because of conditioning growing up, right? And some of those childhood wounds. So looking back, it's like wow, like, like young and dumb, like, oh, there's so many blinders, but grateful for the lessons, never have to repeat those mistakes again. Which is, the gold. And
That's the human experience.
It is.
Life is just one series of blind leaps of faith, and learning how to, well, just like learning from those experiences and then having the wisdom to to look back and not judge or shame yourself, but to um, use that information and like, how can we grow? It's kind of like in your business, right? I mean, every business that the businesses that you've launched, like you said, like you were able to use contacts from the one that wasn't as maybe financially successful into now your third business. And you're learning things now for what could be your next business or the next iteration of BGB. And I feel the same. I think it's all it's just a story we tell ourselves, right?
It
It's
is.
like
It really
we can
is.
say we failed in business or we failed relationships or, oh, I learned a lot. And it's that reframing. I know you get that because you talk about it in the book, and it's just harder sometimes to do that with ourselves.
Yeah. The one thing
Right.
I will add, though, is that I wish for Black women specifically, and Black women and men to be able to have the opportunity to learn differently. I do think our learning, unfortunately, just systemic, racism has come with so much trauma. I don't want us to have that much of a pain tolerance.
Mm.
Um, and that's just due to the trauma, individual, societal, generational, right? But I want us to be able to learn um, with less pain. Sometimes you don't have to have as much pain with the learnings. And so that's my only wish.
Yeah. Oh, girl, I get it. I got 2 little kids I'm raising. I am deep in that. Am I this amazing because I had to suffer? And like, should I make sure that they have a little friction in their, and I think that's yeah, I take that point. I agree. It's that balance. I mean, yeah, 100%. Well, let's pivot into, we talked a little bit about your business journey, but where did that entrepreneurial spirit come from? I know you said a professor in business school was the one who saw the entrepreneurial drive from you, but growing up in the A or roundabout, like, how did your upbringing lead you to this path, do you think?
I will say maybe subconsciously, my grandfather was entrepreneurial, and he really wanted to buy some land up in Michigan where he's from, and couldn't
Mm.
make certain decisions at the time. He had a whole family he was raising. My great, 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 I think 4 times great grandfather. It's an interesting story. My mom wants to write a book around it, so I won't tell it completely. But
Okay.
he ended up moving to Arkansas, and getting land and rice fields that are still in the family name.
Wow.
But it goes to the boys, so you have to have the last name with the boys. But
Oh, is that law in Arkansas
no,
or?
it's just, I think that was just how it was written, whatever trust or what have you, like, to make sure it stays in the
Oh.
family and stays in the family
Mm.
name. And so there's that. But my grandfather never had the opportunity because of racism, right? He was so smart. My grandfather would
Mm.
pick up books and just write different op-eds on them. He would submit them to the paper, you know what I mean? He'd have his little op-eds. He was just such
Oh,
an
wow.
intelligent man. He worked in a factory. That's the extent of what the world would allow him to, expand to in his world. But I think all of this is his things he's planted, realized. Yeah, I never really saw myself going into entrepreneurship. I don't have, and here's the thing I want to say too. I see a lot of people jumping into entrepreneurship because of their wounds. A lot of us haven't been seen in traditional settings, and we end up wanting to get into, especially like I want to say this kind of business wellness. It's like, I wasn't seen. I want to make space for other people to feel seen. And I don't necessarily recommend that being the place in which you build. You're going to experience 10 times more trauma, and 10 times you don't like, yes, I experienced maybe some things in the workplace, but I was like even younger than I am, walking up to these corporations, pitching them. What do you think that I experienced then? I was recently at a networking event, and I was like, I realized that I don't even like telling people what I do, or, anything because it's so unbelievable that I don't like feeling that energy, that projection. And it's mostly like this face that people make. But I laugh with friends because it's like,
What?
oh, okay, and it's that's fine.
Doesn't sound like a real business to them, or like,
It doesn't sound like I'm for real. Like, oh, I wrote a book, and people are like, oh, it's on Amazon, and I'm like, it is, but also in bookstores across the country. But I don't feel the need to do all that. I feel very comfortable.
you're not going to the right networking events.
Well,
But I know that no, I mean, not a dig.
I've been. I would say that my experience as a young, even younger than what I appear, innovative-minded Black woman, I face a lot of that going into different environments, having had large corporate partners, the leading banks in the world, writing checks to Black girls breathing. Like I'm going to face some of that, right? So, yeah. Anyways, I don't know how I got the entrepreneurial journey, but yeah.
I brought you there. Well, I mean, no, I think that's often something that guests will say, especially, I mean, are you still living the solopreneur kind of like life, or do you have a team? And if you have a team,
I have a team.
Okay.
And even that, I think people get to, I recommend people lean team until it makes sense to expand. When you have all your systems and process, I think sometimes entrepreneurs get caught up in like having this big team and like, do you need that? We have tech stacks, we have, systems, like only have what you need. We've been around for 6 years, right? I've seen COVID, I've seen, money from DEI shrinking, and have been able to grow during those periods. So there's just lots I've seen, and I'm like, just, work on what works best for you. Don't lean into the appearance of things, because that's how a lot of people get caught up. And I've talked to other founders who should have reduced, a long time ago, but we're so caught up in how things looked and how that would appear. I'm like, no, you gotta do what's best for that P&L.
Yeah, I mean, my team is, I have a virtual assistant, I have an editor for the podcast, and then I have me, myself, and a bunch of systems and tools. And that's just how it's going to be for a while. And I'm good with that. It's a huge responsibility to bring on staff. It's like, well, damn. I mean, and especially in the first, few years of business, I know you know this well, but the financial volatility of it all. I mean, there's months since I have launched my business where it's like, are we going to do the mortgage and the daycare this month? Like, without dipping into in a retirement fund? We don't want to do that. How did you, I mean, I know your first business, you said it was a marketing consultancy, but how were you like funding your businesses? Was it personal funding? To start with, have you ever brought on investors?
Yeah. So first business, there was no need for any kind of investment money, right? Service-based business, charging retainers and then also, being specific with my ideal clients. Like these clients can afford certain retainers monthly for 2 years plus. And I may take on a smaller project here and there, but I have that consistent income. So that was the basis for the first business. I didn't really need that much startup capital for that. For BGB, I started off with like $5,000 of my own personal savings, and have since we've gotten grant funding. I have no investors. I made the decision, when was it? 2023, to stop pursuing and having conversations around funding with investors.
Okay.
Yeah, that didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. I mean, I think a huge part of being a Black founder is tailoring your exposure level to just like the BS. Like I don't have to expose myself I'm not walking into these meetings mostly with there being a curiosity for what we're doing. That's mostly I'm having to pitch against their defensiveness already. They've already made up in their minds the extent of what this could be, what it is. And so that's where I'm walking into.
It's got to be a shitty feeling.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I don't have to. I'm like, let's just have cash, be cash flow positive, watch that
Mm.
P&L, and have partnerships, we have B2C and B2B, listening to customers, using our data to influence what we do next. Like, let's do that. And that was the best
Mm.
decision that I made. I mean, because the freedom of not having investors, we've taken on some impact loan investment money, so low interest funding right here in Atlanta. That's been
Okay.
great. Yeah.
Through like community banks
It's a
or
quasi-governmental. It's called Impact Atlanta, and there's probably
yeah.
an Impact Houston, or I don't know, I'm making that up. There is an Impact Detroit, but these orgs are
Yeah.
quasi-governmental. They have private and public funding to help fund innovation in those cities. And so they're looking for different projects, whether that's, retail, whether that's not
Mm.
residential. So mixed use housing and spaces. Like, they're just investing to ensure the city keeps up and appears like one that is innovative and leading. So all cities have that. I would encourage people to look into that and begin,
Mm.
creating those relationships. But yeah, that is the journey of the background of business.
How are you liking Atlanta as the home for your business and like the entrepreneurship community there? How are you finding those like connections locally? I know you mentioned a little bit the networking, but on the whole, what's it been like?
I will say that I'm still trying to find my way here in Atlanta, being from here.
Okay.
Having a market city in here. So one of our market communities is in Atlanta. We have several all over the US. Like, we have 8 or 9 key markets where our community members are. Atlanta
Okay.
is one of those, but I will say that for the very recently have we secured both a corporate partner and some funding here in Atlanta. All of that in the past has been in New York.
Okay. When did you move back? Was it recent?
No, the second move back to Atlanta was what, 2018? 2018. So I've been back for a minute,
Okay.
but finding my way when it comes to community here, because, it's just different. I go to my networking in New York, where I do have professional contacts, having gone to school there, and just feeling
Mm.
more free in certain ways. In some leggings, go to the co-working space in some leggings and a sweatshirt, and no one is like trying to, see and use that to see, like, is their business successful? In Atlanta, it's kind of a different approach. It is very, people will look at the service level to try to determine and get information about your success as a business. It's kind of interesting. Still finding my way in Atlanta, but grateful for this recent support that has made me be like, okay, let's seed here even more as far as me staying here.
Yeah.
And continue to build from here.
Do you feel like Atlanta's a bit more like superficial in terms of like let's be real, because I haven't been there as a business owner. My brother works in corporate and he also is a filmmaker in Atlanta. He lives on the east side, and I think he has found such a great community in the art film sort of like space, but that's just my only sort of window sometimes.
Yeah.
I want it to be good for us because I might want to go back to Atlanta.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm just
find your
like,
people. I find my people. I think I
yeah.
have friends and great relationships here. I just speaking on a business perspective,
Mm.
that could be different. With it having the entertainment and music industry down here, of course, it's going to be a little bit more superficial, right? Because you have those
Mm.
components seeding into the overall culture down here.
Yeah.
But I would say there's a lot of interest in our tech scene of growing that here. Our elected officials, I love that they look like me, especially our mayor of Atlanta.
Mm.
So there's lots building. I'd say there's opportunity. You just have to, I'm still finding my way. I have my core people, but again, I'm trying to be more, that's my goal for 2025,
Yeah.
getting out and do the networking thing. But I do go to the networking things and walk away feeling like, okay, okay. Like that's usually my takeaway. Okay.
What kinds are you? I'm just curious too, because I mean, I live in Westchester, which is outside of Manhattan, and I haven't, to be completely transparent, I haven't really built, I wouldn't say a community of other entrepreneurs here. Definitely friends, neighbors have been important to me, but When you think about networking and like the types of events you go to, what do you find what's the purpose for you? Like what's the best case scenario outcome for you building that community?
Genuine connection. You do business. Most times you're doing business. There's some rapport relationship there, right? Any kind of partnership, there's a familiarity. Repeat business is done with people that like you. That's just the reality. They like
Mm.
you. They like being around you. They like the value you bring. So those are the attributes you're looking for in these networking situations. And these things aren't immediate ask. It's okay to grow slow, get to know people,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
be able to help them see how you could help expand, right? I'm rooting for everybody Black, right? So I've done that in business in all ways that I could use my influence to ever do that. Yeah, those are usually my goals when I'm going to networking situations. I'm going to everything from tech events to shareholder meetings for some of these, you know.
Oh, why tech? Well, BG, is there a tech component to BGB, or are you hoping to expand in that
We have an
space?
online platform.
Oh,
We
okay.
have a web app.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have the web app. We also have our in-persons that will be more consistent after our breathwork facilitators graduate this May. And I'm choosing some
Yeah.
to lead our markets where I don't, it's not sustainable for me to be leading all that.
Let's talk about that because I want to know. I know we've talked a lot on the background, but how are you getting more? Yeah, talk about training breathwork facilitators. How does that all work? And then what's your vision that there will be BGB sort of like you said, trainers in all your key markets eventually so we can go get a session?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
we started with that combo of having both virtual and in-person sessions. And so getting to a place now that our community has grown to be able to have a consistent breathwork facilitator in that city hosting sessions.
Mm.
So that's a key part of our 1 million impact plan that we launched back in 2021. But yeah, so training facilitators now, I'm excited about that. When that launched because of an issue I was having with hiring facilitators who said they've gone through trauma-informed training, but then getting them into an environment like ours and them not being prepared, feeling overwhelmed, right? Thinking not only of just the demographic, but the volume, that you're going to be hosting other people, feeling that energy, feeling a lot of people's trauma. So the
Oh.
training arose from fatigue of hiring and training people and them still not feeling ready because of training programs they were going through. So that's why I launched the
Mm.
training program. Mostly to be able to hire for myself, but
Mm-hmm.
also noticing their need for someone that looks like me with my unique experience. I didn't have a blueprint for this work. There
Yeah.
was a time when I had reached back to one of my former teachers, like, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what to do in these situations. I'm learning because they didn't provide the tools, and in some ways, no fault to them because of who their clientele was. What could they provide me?
Mm.
But I remember her saying, like, yeah, you've reached a point where you're going to have to create the blueprint for yourself, right? There's no one in front of you doing this at this volume of this demographic. Take
Mm-hmm.
your learnings, and so data has been a huge part of that, right? I talk about research a lot. We've done a lot on the back end, behind the scenes with the research, but being able to capture the data of what this work is doing over time with this demographic is important to be able to showcase those results. So using that data to influence how we continue to do this work and also our training program.
Hmm. I find, well, one, I want to know how the breathwork sessions work. I think I had my idea because meditation and breath work became really important to me postpartum. I've been a high functioning anxiety girly, and only because I don't think life had gotten too stressful. But when I hit my max, when I really got to a challenging time post number one, and then I had my second baby in 2023, and the last year, 2024 and 2023, just really threw your girl, really challenged, And when it came to trouble sleeping and falling asleep, really, um, and having these like anxiety attacks that would sort of paralyze. They were, I call them like quiet anxiety attacks because they weren't, I don't think they weren't. I think about Randall Pearson from This Is Us, you know, Sterling K. Brown's character, where he would like be crying in the shower and it would be a panic attack. But for me, they sort of manifest as like just body paralysis and just all the panic is inside. You can't see it, but it's happening. Like my brain's on fire, but no one else knows it. And I have found I don't have like a routine or a practice, but breath work and meditation have become a really important part of my routine. And I usually will do it through an app or just make it up on the fly, like I did when the kids are driving me batshit crazy in the morning. So if we go to a BGB session, what does that look like? And how do you see us incorporating it into our day to day?
Yeah. So if you come to a BGB session, we're incorporating, reflection, being able to connect with the mind, and then using the breath to connect to the body. So that mind-body connection is something that a lot of athletes and those in the sports industry talk about. It's really effective, being able to connect your breath with your body, and tap into your body, locating emotions where emotions sit in the body, because our emotions have physiological effects. And so does stress, and so does trauma. Trauma doesn't live in the brain, it lives in the body. We can't outthink our trauma. We have to allow our bodies to help process the emotions and all the embedded emotions. So using the breath to bring that up, and that can result in a variety of responses. We use a lot of the tools I mentioned in the book when it comes to auditory releases. So screaming is really great. And incorporating that with the breath work, and then ensuring that we have just a safe container for people to leave out of such an experience like that, because it is intense, right? You're not only having your experience, but experiencing other people's emotions.
Because you're in groups in person.
Yeah.
So this ain't what I've been doing. This ain't listening to Chelsea Jackson Roberts on Peloton app at night. Although I love you, Chelsea. I love you so much.
There's space for it all, right?
Yeah. It's like a release. You're almost, it's almost like you're focusing a little bit on, well, I don't know. I don't want to tell you, but it sounds to me like there's an exhale, like there's a release. That's interesting. I've never done anything like that.
Yeah, well, maybe you have to you said you're in Rochester?
Outside of my car. Westchester.
Oh, Westchester. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in New York. We have a community in New York.
I'm gonna have to find one.
Once I graduate my peeps, and they'll be doing it consistently, so I can step into this new era, which is teaching and being able to help guide and not take on all that weight myself, but teach others how to make space for it, because it is something that people can burn out from very quickly. Very quickly. Yeah.
And it's because all these people, you're in a room and you are like, if they're releasing such intense emotions, but it's not like a therapy session, right? We're not speaking. There's no like back and forth. You're just being led through sort of a exercise.
Speaks, right? So that could be traumatic too. People's bodies speaking, temporary paralysis, people, having a shake, right? Like the body is speaking, and I always say the breath tells on you, right? And this is from years of practice with lots of demographics, right? I can look at someone's body and see what they may be dealing with emotionally, just where the breath is trapped, right? Some people even attempt to take a full inhale and exhale can't, right? Just from there's such embedded fear of, the emotions coming up. And a feeling that most people have this huge fear that if they allow themselves to go to the bottom, they won't be able to get it back up, right? And there's been lots of confirmation around that, right? You have a breakup. Well, don't sweat about it too long, right? When we're in that state where we need to grieve, it's a lot of, don't stay down too long. There's this fear around exposing ourselves to our own emotions and our own depth and things that we've repressed and avoided for a while. So that experience in and of itself. And then a lot of people don't have words to their trauma that you're experiencing. They don't have words for that, right? They don't even know how to verbalize because it's been a subconscious thing or thing that they may not have mentally taken account of, but their body did and held on to that experience. So in ways, we are having dialogue and communal dialogue, like one would talk in therapy, and having back and forth with each other. But then that other component of, have you ever heard a person wail who's recently lost themselves, lost someone, finally allow themselves to go to the depth of that grief? Like, that's something that internally we can feel the weight of, everyone in the room. So yeah. Yeah.
There was this moment when I was in my darkest place, and the past year, and maybe I'll get there again. It resonates with me talking about the deepest well of our emotions, and almost feeling like the fact that I was in there, feeling it, unable to escape it, finally having to like touch that flame. That, in a way, I guess I thought I was broken for having gotten that low. And what I've learned since then, or what I've been talking about since then for myself, is just how important it was for me to be that low and to see how I could get out of it, but how like it was okay to sit there for a while, examine those feelings, get to the core of them. And it wasn't like, for sure, it wasn't just like, oh, I had this really cathartic cry and then I was fixed. It was, those are some really challenging feelings. So I'm going to need to actually sit with these for days, weeks, months, and work through them. And then for me, it kind of comes down to, when do I have time to fall apart because I am a mom and I have so many people relying on me financially, emotionally. I need to be a well for my children. And I had done therapy. Like, I did 5 years of therapy. I was on my little Zoloft, got my little meds. We're all open to that now. But there were so many things that were hitting back to back to back that I finally sort of reached my limit, and I had to tap into new tools. And I know you've spoken about breathwork as being one of those tools in your toolkits. And it was so liberating for me to realize that I can go to those places emotionally because I have the tools I know to get out of them. Breathwork is one of those tools for me. Another one that I've talked about is DBT therapy. So dialectical behavioral therapy, which is very like skills based. What are some actual things I can do to decrease suffering in this moment? I wonder from you, like, what other tools, or can you just talk about the tools that are in your toolkit, or the tools that you hope that more Black women are able to? That was a very long-winded question, but yeah.
No, I would say my experience with EMDR, as someone who has gone through traditional talk therapy and hit a plateau to where therapists kept dropping me like, oh, you have the tools, you don't need, and I'm like, actually processing is therapeutic to me out loud, right? Like, I know the steps I did to remedy this, but just you having you sit across from me and listen to me and see me as a person who goes out in the world as a Black person who doesn't always feel seen is therapeutic. Feeling seen is therapeutic. So them not necessarily getting that, but me doing EMDR therapy, which is that subconscious brain rewiring. So it's eye movement processing. You're literally using eye movement. It's insane. And when I tell you, you can process so much in 5 sets, you can process 3 years of talk therapy in 5 sessions of EMDR with the EMDR therapist. It's amazing. I want all Black women to tap into this because a lot of us, again, have that subconscious trauma. And what it's doing is it's reframing the brain's connection to that trauma. So it's like if this was the trauma and this is the brain stick to that memory, it's like, boop, boop, let's go rewire, let's rewire to a different thought when it comes to that. And so that trauma isn't attached to this negative belief or pattern. Let's help the brain do that without the talking, with what it naturally does, right? Just enhancing eye movement, right?
Yeah, I've heard of EMDR.
It's amazing. I highly recommend. And I'd say too, it was funny. I was like, the Virgo in me wanted to snapshot the therapist saying this, but she was like, I've never had anyone's brain process as fast as you do. And I was like, it's the breath work. Like, I've done so much subconscious work with the breath work. She was like, I think so too, to where, I've only
They
had
work in
4
tandem.
sessions. Yeah. I mean, before that, all the years of practice and then meeting this tool and seeing its response. And right now, preparation for the training, hosting the training, I started getting acupuncture and working with an, Eastern medicine practitioner. And I adored that. And same thing, he's like, your body is responding so well to this. It's me preparing for the fact that I just launched a book, and that's heightened stress. It's natural heightened stress, right? You have something that you've never done before. It's natural. It's okay. But how do I use a tool to help me like rebalance that? I need some more tricks, in the toolbox. So acupuncture has been so helpful. Highly, highly, highly recommend. And also just the physiological effects of acupuncture, especially for women and balancing hormones, because stress doesn't just impact, our anxiety, it impacts our hormones. And so helping to balance those hormones and ensure that we're not being impacted, our reproductive system isn't being impacted by our stress levels is really important. So
Yeah.
that's been a great tool for me.
Okay, acupuncture. I haven't tried that.
Yes. Definitely try. And I'm doing painless, so the needles don't stay in. He's just getting the pressure points. So there's different types of acupuncture you can do. You don't have to do the traditional one where you see people with the needles, you know what I mean, being poked and they're just lying.
There's all different levels of it. Okay.
Types.
I don't mind a little pain. If it's going to work, just
But you can also not.
Does it hurt good?
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
It feels like little pricks, the kind he does. He's just
okay.
Points. There's no need for the needles to actually stay in there. I mean, this is a different type of acupuncture, an older type.
Yeah.
And it's okay to not feel the pain. The results work just the same. Trust.
Okay, that's something to think about.
Daily walking, low impact movement. And there's recently some research that was written. I've got to find that article again. But how nature walking helps with processing trauma, because when we're nature walking, we're looking left, right, which mimics what? An EMDR process. The left. Yes. And now, yes. So I was like, my gosh, how those.
Yeah. Walking, or I don't run as much anymore, but when I did run, I was training for a triathlon and they wouldn't let you use earbuds. You couldn't listen to music. And that really taught me how to run just kind of based on, and just get into the rhythm of my body and my breath. And so when I walk, I try to walk, if I'm doing it for mental health, like sometimes I'm just walking and walk the dog, I'm going to listen to something. But I have found like walking without something in my ear to listen to, which I think some people, I mean, even sometimes myself, I'm like, why can't I just do the dishes and listen to my thoughts? But is that important to you to just have like quiet walking time, or do you find yourself gravitating toward like listening to something?
I have lots of quiet time in general. I
Okay.
make space for lots of reflective and quiet. Like I feel even working throughout the day, I'm not having a bunch of stuff playing. I just really tune to my senses, what's going on. When I'm eating, I'm not watching TV. I'm not on my phone. I like to eat. I like to enjoy my food, right? Just little things that I do throughout the day that help my brain not get so attached to multitasking and distractions. And so I feel like I make a good enough amount of time for quiet time every day. But in my walking, it really depends. Sometimes I want to listen to a really good podcast. Sometimes I do just want to listen to like the birds and the leaves rustling, you know what I mean, in the park. And so it really depends. I'm always asking myself what I need in the day, and it changes. That's a way we can be flexible with our tools, is just being kind to ourselves that one day's tools may not look like the other. And responding.
Yes, that part.
Yeah.
And replacing I know the word that keeps bouncing around in my head is maladaptive, because I think that I certainly have some maladaptive habits that served me as a kid, and, that I just kept doing as an adult. That maladaptive is just like, ain't good for you. It actually hurts you in the long run, and trying to replace those with, healthier coping strategies it's hard. It's hard. And sometimes you find yourself going back and into some old habits, or just some practices that you're like, damn, I thought I had that one under control.
That's just part of the process. That's so part of the
Yeah.
process. There's no such thing as a straight line in our healing, and just being able to when my friend recently mentioned about leaning into love, just leaning into love in all ways when it comes to ourselves, just like
self-love. Yeah.
it's just leaning into where the love goes. I think too, we can self-sabotage being happy and having a joyful moment if things have been rough for a while. Talk about that. We don't even know. Some of us don't know how to enjoy the happy moments when they are here because we've just been so used to the down moments. And so when that happens, sometimes we subconsciously self-sabotage by engaging in something that doesn't feel good just because it's what our body's used to. So just leaning, as uncomfortable as it can feel sometimes, leaning all the way into the love and the goodness. Practicing that. It's a practice. That's a practice too.
Yeah. And that it's also a good reminder too that yesterday's tools may not work today. And having kids really helped me see that because first of all, I used to have this mantra of like different baby every day. Cause yesterday the binky would work, but today it's like, I don't want that binky. It's like, I really want you to walk around the kitchen island 1,000 times with me in a very specific hold, or it's music one day. And you so desperately, and I can see my husband really struggles with this. He's like, but this isn't working anymore. What am I going to do? I'm like, you got to ask them. You got to be patient and let them show you what they need in this moment. And I think we're very similar as adults. And, some days what I like to have all the tools at the beginning of this year, last year, as I was going through this like deep journey, I was like, I want to know what all the tools are. And I want to have them at my fingertips so that I can reach toward them and not have so much pressure for that to be the one thing. A bath may relax me for an hour, but I may need to journal on top of it. I may need to book a massage. I may need to do a meditation, the next day, the next week, whatever, and just kind of being open to the changing of that. And there's not one magical routine that will fit everyone. Yeah. Being open to surprise. Yeah.
And the yummy surprises too. Things working out better than we expected or fitting better than we intended,
Yeah. Well, would you mind if I can, this is like your talent now, right? You're like Lin-Manuel Miranda when everyone's like, can you freestyle? And it's like, Jasmine, will you do a meditation or breath work with me or with BA fam? Do you have time?
A little bit of oceanic breath to close us out. How does that sound?
That sounds wonderful.
Okay. So
oceanic breath. Okay.
Yeah, and the practice sounds just like its name. So mimicking our breaths to sound like the ocean, if we can close our eyes and just envision that. But you're going to be opening your mouth as wide open as possible. And you're going to...
Really? Okay.
For increased airflow, yeah.
Oh, it's so tight.
You don't have to force it. You can easeful.
Oh, okay.
Inhaling through the mouth. Exhaling out of the mouth.
Okay, that was just for practice. I'm doing it now.
Exhaling out of the mouth. Inhaling. Exhaling. We're really allowing our lungs to fill up as much as possible on that inhale. Then depleting the lungs on that exhale. Really getting our bodies used to what a full inhale and exhale feel like on the body. I promise if you do 5 rounds of this in the morning, you'll feel it. It'll really activate that parasympathetic nerve.
It's very tingly up here. Is that normal?
That's normal. That's your body.
It's very tingly. I love, I think with breath, often it's like breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. I've never done the full mouth inhale.
Yeah, there's so many different types and patterns of breath work. So many out there. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jasmine, for coming on Brown Ambition. Thank you for writing this book and for giving me a different way to look at a tool that I thought I already kind of knew. No, I don't. There's so many layers to it. I can't wait to explore more. Where can people find you and find BGB and join that community?
Look at us with our books. Yay!
Yeah.
You can find at blackgirlsbreathing.com. We have some free resources on our website, our mental health toolkit. You can join our paid community, app.blackgirlsbreathing.com, Sunday Bomb. We have guided HD breathwork meditations. I'm really loving the rest series that we dropped to really help us practice rest. A lot of us need help, and it's okay. It's an unlearning. So those videos are there to guide us. Audio meditations, we have live sessions and communal dialogue, expanded content, all the things. And the book is available wherever you buy your books and audio books. I am recommending that people go to Black-owned bookstores to purchase their copies, and also get the second copy from Barnes & Noble. Go in stores. To have that shelf space is a huge honor. Not a lot of Black authors get it, even if you have a publisher.
Amen.
So to have shelf space, the book has prominent shelf space. I'm super excited about that.
Tell your library to carry it. Shout out to the Greenberg Library.
It's a you know what's funny? Last night
it was in their new nonfiction section. I was like, am I interviewing her? I think I am. So I grabbed it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's the thing about books. It will go farther than you ever expected, to be honest. You're like, oh, that's a good book.
Yeah.
And then you can follow Black Girls Breathing. My personal account is _J Marie. And that's all things Black Girls Breathing and me.
Thank you, Jasmine Marie,
for having me.
You know you're from the South when you got the Jasmine Marie. I'm Amanda Lee. So it's a thing. It's a Lee or a Marie.
First.
You what?
I didn't have a name. I went home without a name. So the doctor told, again, remember I was a Grady baby. So I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I was working back there, but they told my mom I was a boy. And so I was Quentin. So
she didn't check the hardware. Make sure.
Well, listen, when I came out, they had all the what is it called? The ultrasound, all that kind of stuff showed I was a boy. I don't know if it's my hand. I don't know, but they told me.
Yeah, it must have been.
And came out a girl, and at first she named me Aubrey, and my mom's best friend at the time was like, absolutely not, that's ugly. So I went home without, and no offense to the Aubreys out there, they just didn't like it for me, and I was like, she's not an Aubrey.
I mean, I think Drake kind of ruined Aubreys for everybody, so probably better off
for a while. And I was like, I wonder, I was joking with my mom, said, I wonder if that had a traumatic experience on, my existence, the baby not having a day.
Oh God, you can't do that to moms. Then she's going to be like, listen, I did the best I could. Find somebody else to blame. That's how my mom is. At a certain point, I'm like, okay, I'll tell my therapist how you did that. Jasmine Marie. Okay, so thank you so much. Brown Ambition BA fam, go check out her book. Literally at the library, check it out. Also, go purchase a copy. This is the kind of book. It would make such a great birthday gift. Mother's Day gift is, got Mother's Day coming up. My mom's birthday is coming up. Might give her a copy. Thank you again for sharing your light with us and all the success.
Thank you. Same to you.